Do we need our leaders to have big personalities? Or maybe you just think, let's have a little less dynamic personalities and a bit more action from our Prime Ministers. Well, joining us now is Oscar Reddrop, former advisor to Boris Johnson, a man not known for lacking in personality, has to be who says politicians don't cut it without a big personality, and broadcaster Afia Hagan, who believes that what we read right now is a bit of boring.
We do.
Go on then, tell us why.
We do. Look, we've just been through, like we were saying off air, how many Prime Ministers and how many weeks. What we need is an end to this kind of soap opera, psychodrama that has become British politics. We're pretty much a laughing stock at the moment. And what we need is steady politics to steady the economy and get us through what's going to be a very difficult few months for a lot of people. And yes, you do need personality in politics. I do agree with that. And it wasn't the best performance from Rishi Sunak, but we need a steady hand to steady the economy and a steady hand to put the focus back on the job of government. It shouldn't be about the charisma of this person, the ego of that person. We just need a Prime Minister who's going to get us through. I mean, actually, what we need is a general election, and we're not going to have that until 2025.
Let's stick to the topic we're talking about here. Look, you're obviously right, but can't we have both? I mean, let's have a quick look. Let's go back 50 years and look at the master of presentation, Kennedy, JFK.
And so, my fellow Americans, ask not what your country can do for you, ask what you can do for your country.
You do believe, don't you, passionately, that actually personality and delivery, even if you're acting, is a key to political leadership?
Well, ideally, you're not acting. You want it to be authentic. And I think that clip... I've actually never seen that, rather shamingly, perhaps. I've never actually seen that. I've never actually seen that clip. And I think what that clip, amongst others, and strong leadership and charisma and personality, it actually, I think, can be essential during a crisis. And actually, a strong personality doesn't necessarily mean the loudest in the room. Sometimes there's a quiet strength to take the really bold and difficult decisions. And actually, I think that's something that politicians don't do enough of, is actually the strength to accept your own... have the strength of personality to accept your own complexities and your actual faults and be comfortable with that. It's so often you see these politicians, and maybe this is what Rishi was going through, kind of these 2D cardboard cutouts who are so kind of rigid with fear and terrified of making a mistake. And actually, the British public, I think, in particular, are accepting of faults and people's complexities and actually can be open to it. I completely agree with your earlier point, I have to say, in terms of you want a combination of the two. We don't just want big, bold, brash personalities. We need... Because actually there is a... And when you made your general election point, I think what you're identifying is there is actually a lot of anger out there because politics has become a bit ridiculous. So I do get that.
And I think that's the point, isn't it, Afia, that what it speaks to is emotional connection.
Yeah.
If you feel an emotional connection with your leader, and this is something that Rishi has already been, crikey, it's barely... He's not even had a day yet. Yeah. He hasn't even come out and accepted the position, as it were, and started. But people are saying, look, he's super rich. His in-laws are ridiculously, you know, inherited wealth. Does he connect with me, that's counting the pennies? Does he have that connection? Does he understand me? And also confidence, because you might not need a bravura performance, but you want to feel that they're confident that they're in charge.
Absolutely. You want someone who's going to steer the ship, who's going to unite the country like he said, or he said in his speech that he's going to do. I think when it comes to the point on people being able to connect with him, of course, a lot of people are going to find that a problem. That, yes, he does have this massive wealth. Is he going to be the Prime Minister that's going to really be for people who are really struggling over the next few months? But also we have to realise that he is the best of a bad batch at the moment. That we are really having to deal with the hand that we've been dealt, which is completely unfair as well. And I also think that we've got to a point where we don't have the politics that we used to have. We don't have the same standards of politicians that we used to have, who, like you so rightly said, Richard, should be able to have a combination of charisma and leadership, but we don't have those same standards in public life.
No, we don't, I agree.
We used to have.
It's a bit of a sad bunch on both sides of the House, on all sides of the House, no question about it. It's not like it used to be. But look, let's look back to Margaret Thatcher. When Margaret Thatcher became Prime Minister, she was pretty rubbish at public speaking. Her delivery was very, very poor. Her tone was very monotonous. And she got elocution lessons and she got presentational lessons and she upped her game. In other words, she learned to pretend. And that's the point. That's the point I'm making. Do you not think Rishi should be doing the same thing?
And perhaps he will do that in time. Perhaps he will do that over the course of the job. It was his first speech. Like Kate said, he'd probably been up for hours persuading people to vote for him. Perhaps if we give him a couple of weeks, we might see a different Rishi. Rishi's
a really interesting character because I've been up close with Rishi on a few occasions, and Rishi actually has a really rare ability, one-on-one, and this is what he needs to translate to the masses, to make you feel like you matter. I mean, he was a very busy guy when we do media stuff together. Is my opinion, or, you know, having a quick chat with me was probably bottom of his to-do list. But in that moment, exactly, and that is so rare, and that might surprise people. And I think, to your point, in time that will come to the fore.
But he needs to get that across the entire electorate.
Absolutely.
So what would you? Sorry. So what would you advise him? Because I wonder if part of the problem is he hasn't won an election like Margaret Thatcher, like JFK. He hasn't got that confidence. Flipping heck, he lost a leadership election a matter of weeks ago. He's now coming in to take over from the person who's going out. It's probably not the most confidence-boosting position. So if you were with him, what would you sit down and say to him right now?
Well, first of all, in the kind of the balance between delivery and personality and actually just getting on doing the job, politics is completely uniquely brutal in the sense that if you don't have the strength of personality to take credit for doing well yourself, someone else will take it. And so, first of all, you can't rely on that. So I think he needs to absolutely sit down. Like yesterday, I think Ed Vaizey said it earlier this morning, you know, forget the auto cue in a way. You're a bright guy.
Wing it.
Well, just take a few notes,
and
speak from the heart, connect with people.
That wasn't a live performance. That was a pre-recorded. If I'd been on his team, I would have said, Prime Minister, can we do that again, please? And can you look at the right camera this time?
And also, and this is a regret that I maybe think we didn't reflect well enough with Boris at times. Because, Boris would go out there in the country and be mobbed by people. Genuinely mobbed in a positive way, by the way. And he needs to get out there, show he can kind of mix with normal people and
let us get to know him.